Good morning. I'm Vilma Ortiz. I'm the worship associate for today's service. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I grew up in a small Puerto Rican church, Baptist church, in New York City. The adults in the church, including my parents, had converted from Catholicism to being Baptist, so they were fairly fundamentalist in their beliefs and practices. Because of this, I grew up hearing scary messages about heaven and being saved, and about hell and being damned. I'll admit, it made me scared. So I ignored those scary feelings and eventually moved away from the church of my childhood. Years later, I met my husband Antonio, who was Mexican American. Through him and other Latinx friends, I learned to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. Antonio loved the calaveras and other aspects of the celebration, and his affection for this helped me embrace celebrations of death. And when he passed away, it seemed right to celebrate his life by celebrating Dia de los Muertos. 1 month after Antonio's memorial service in this very church, I shared Dia de los Muertos with you, this congregation, for the very first time. Doing it was a significant part of my grief work, and repeating it every year became one more important step in my grief journey. From what you have told me over the years, this has resonated with you too. And you're not alone. Dia de los Muertos resonates with many beyond its Mexican origins. We long to make peace with death, and Dia de los Muertos helps us do so. It helps us face death directly and without fear. It makes death familiar and celebratory. By celebrating Dia de los Muertos, we remember those that we have loved and who have died. As Abelardo Delgado writes, talking with the dead is necessary to remind us to enjoy our lives and not to go about as if we already died and no one said goodbye or cried. And with these words, we light the chalice.
De noche vemos de noche que para encontrar la fuente solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. By night we hasten in darkness to search for living water. Only our thirst leads us onward. Only our thirst leads us onward.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Kalendae, and I serve this congregation as its developmental minister. Our worship team, who you will be meeting throughout this service, is delighted to be joining you in our online sanctuary this morning. This morning's service, Our Beloved Dead, is a special holiday service marking All-Hallowtide and Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. If you are new to our community, please know that our church home is open, our building is closed, and there are many ways to become involved with our community. We offer a multitude of programs that serve the needs of our congregation and help us to be of service to the larger world. If you're interested in learning more, please join us for our virtual visitor meetup following the service. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious movement with over 1,000 congregations that gather each week to inspire spiritual learning, provide religious education for our young people, care for those who are suffering, and promote justice and equity in our world. Our liberal tradition arises from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient traditions. We are guided by liberal religious principles that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and encourage a personal search for truth and meaning, while we honor the mystery and wonder of our lives and affirm that we're all connected to one another and to that great interdependent web of life. We're a welcoming community with a rich history of activism for women's rights, civil rights, and LGBTIAQ rights. We affirm a diversity of religious beliefs and philosophies of life and strive to dwell together in peace and goodwill and love. We invite you to join us in creating this beloved community. Please visit our website at UUSM.org or our online newsletter at news.uusm.org for more information about the activities of the church and ways to get involved. You may also want to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter on our website. As we begin this morning, we want to acknowledge that our church building and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Tongva people, who lived here and cared for this land for thousands of years. This land was stolen from the Tongva people by colonial settlers. We recognize and mourn the often deadly harm inflicted upon the indigenous people of this country. We lift up their grace, their resilience, and their relationship to these sacred lands. Come, let us worship together.
El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración.
The quest for truth is its sacrament and service is its prayer.
Vivir juntos en paz.
To dwell together in peace.
Buscar el conocimiento en la libertad.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
Servir a la humanidad en comunión.
To serve humankind in fellowship.
Así es como convenimos unos a otros.
Thus do we covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue.
today's service, you're going to hear about several different holidays that happen this time of year. You've probably heard of Halloween, candy, costumes, really good movies. There's also All Saints Day, which is November 1st. There's Dia de los Muertos, which is celebrated in Mexico, the Caribbean. There's also, excuse my French, I'm not very good at it, Fête Ged, which is celebrated in Haiti, which is the Voodoo Day of the Dead. There's also a holiday called Samhain. Now, you've probably, most likely, never heard of this holiday. And I could tell you all the tiny little details, but I think the troll wife might explain better than me. In a very small town, in autumn, as the leaves turned orange and the clouds became more frequent, the whole town was bedecked for Halloween. Pumpkins were carved on stairs, ghosts hung from windows, and little kids were running through the street in their costumes, asking for candy, but one kid wasn't. Beth was sad. She was sad because her cat Smokey had died, and she was going to bury her at the top of the hill behind her house, next to where her dog McDougal was also buried. She had Smokey all wrapped up. She'd already dug a nice resting place, and she slowly went up the hill with tears in her eyes. She buried Smokey, said a few words, sat down, and began to cry. And she asked Smokey, "Why did you have to die?" And then a voice said, "Well, because it was her time to rejoin Mother." Beth looked around. Who said that? And off to the side, one of the boulders on the hill stirred into life. "I'm the troll wife," said the creature. "And this is a sad night for both of us. My friend the squirrel died, and I'm here to lay him to rest. You know, he and I knew Smokey. We would talk when Smokey came up here to hunt." And the little girl said, "Okay, who are you?" But my cat is dead, and the squirrel is dead, and you don't seem sad like I do." And the troll wife said, "Well, because I know that I'll be able to speak to them again." "But they're dead," said Beth. And the troll wife said, but this is Samhain. Don't you know the ancient secrets of this time of year?" "No," said Beth. Well, the troll wife said, this is a time when the veil between our world and the world where our friends have gone is the absolute thinnest. And so it's much easier to speak with them. Not with words, necessarily, but with our hearts and minds. Isn't that just kind of like my imagination? Like, when I sometimes think I can feel McDougal climb up into my bed like he used to? Sometimes, yes, it is just our imagination, but at this time of year, our friends are coming to visit us. And the woman reached up and patted her shoulder and said, "Like my friend the raven." And as Beth squinted and looked closer and closer, she could see a shimmering figure perched on the troll wife's shoulder. Okay, the troll wife said. "Close your eyes. Think about McDougal really, really hard." And all at once, the form of her dog, shimmery and kind of see-through, appeared before her, wagging his tail, and Beth was very surprised and very happy. "I never really thought that this could happen. Wait, can I talk to Smokey?" "No," the troll wife said. "Smokey has to rest and recover and gain back some vigor, and then one day you'll be able to snuggle up with Smokey too on Samhain." "Is it this way with all of the creatures?" "Yes," the troll wife said. "Now, will you join me, human girl? Although I buried my friend tonight, I still must dance and sing and honor all of my ancestors and friends that have gone before me. Yes. And so Beth and the troll wife slowly danced the troll dances. She watched quietly as the troll wife said troll words in the four directions that Beth didn't understand, but somehow knew were powerful and meant to honor. And they danced and they danced, and soon the troll wife said, "For me, Samhain is over. Go in peace. But will I ever see you again?" Beth wanted to know. "Yes, whenever the moon is full, I will be here, and especially on Samhain. I wish I had something to give you," said Beth. "Let us exchange tears." And so the troll wife reached up a rough finger and caught a tear as it fell from Beth's eye, and the tear glistened on her finger, and the troll wife touched gently her finger to her own cloak, and Beth's tear shone like a diamond. Beth reached up carefully and caught one of the troll wife's tears, and it turned into a real crystal in her hand. "Remember the secrets of Samhain, and remember me," said the troll wife softly. She disappeared into the darkness. Beth made her way back down the hill to find her father waiting on the porch. "Are you all right?" her father asked. "I will be," said Beth as she opened her hand, and in the moonlight a crystal shone. "Did you find something?" her father asked. "A troll tear," said Beth, and her father smiled and asked no questions, for he too had met the troll wife and knew the secret of Samhain. And that is our story for this week.
Thanks be for these life's holy times, moments of grief, days of delight, triumph and failure intertwine, shaping our vision of the right. Thanks be for these, for birth and death, life in between with meaningful. Holy becomes the quickened breath. We celebrate life's interval. Thanks be for these we celebrate. Sing and rejoice, our trust declare. Press all our faith into our fate. Bless now the destiny we share.
Buenos dias. Welcome to our altar for Dia de Muertos. So let me share with you what we have on our altar. One of the most significant things we put on the altar are the photos of those who died, who we're remembering and thinking about. Other things that are on our altar, we've got flowers, marigolds, flor de muertos. It's the traditional flower that's used at this time and used as part of the Dia de Muertos celebrations. We have pan de muertos. And one of the neat things about the bread is that they bake this little dead person into the bread right here. And it's a creative and celebratory aspect to the celebration. We've got lots of other fun stuff on the altar, artwork, things that remind us of the people who have passed away. So around the time my husband died, my mom was visiting us, and she walked over to 7-Eleven and bought a bar of Snickers to put on the altar because it was Antonio's favorite. And so the altar is a place where We put remembrances and things that bring back the person that we've lost, who has died, so that we feel closer and more connected to them. And so this is our altar for this year's Dia de los Muertos.
As we prepare to enter this time of mindfulness, prayer, and meditation, I have one pastoral note, and it is thankfully a joy. I am happy to share that our extraordinary music director, Sonder Choi's visa has been renewed after a prolonged period of uncertainty. We are so thrilled and celebrate with him and are deeply grateful for his continued artistic leadership in our beloved community. Now I invite you to make yourself comfortable and to connect with your breathing. It may be helpful to place your feet firmly on the ground and to sit up with your spine straight. This morning's mindfulness meditation adapts Never Fully Extinguished by Patricia Sheldon, and it will be followed by minutes of silent meditation. Allow yourself to take a few cleansing breaths as we begin our time for mindfulness, prayer, and meditation. Breathing in, welcome calm, centeredness, and love. Breathing out, release any tension, constriction, or stress. Breathing in, breathing out. Becoming mindfully present. In this hour of holy stillness, we gather to honor the lives and people we love. In this hour of holy stillness, we remind ourselves that the flames of life and love are never fully extinguished. In this hour of holy stillness, we offer ourselves for sharing the weight of each other's grief. In this hour of holy stillness, we offer the strength of our love to help others survive their pain and grief. In this hour of holy stillness, we call forth from each of us the power we offer out of life, out of loss, out of love. Let us meditate now in the silence, in the holy stillness. Amen. Our reading this morning is This Sacred Thread by Heather K. Johnoulis. They once dwelled among us, the people of memory, they who knew us, they who taught us, they who heard us, they who loved us. They touch our lives time and again through their presence and their absence, through their familiar scents and favorite songs, through old stories and renewed sorrow. The earth turns and leaves fall. We reach back to renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands open, we hold onto love. Ever stronger than death, we reach back in gratitude and understanding. Without our time together, the pain and the joy, we would never be who we are today. We would have little to pass on ourselves. Without fear, with thanksgiving, and with hope for all that awaits, we remember those who have gone before. We honor the circle of life and death and our place within this sacred thread. There is a Dia de los Muertos tradition that holds that marigold flowers, known for their brilliant orange, gold, and crimson hues, have the power to cross between the world of the living and the world of our beloved dead. They are often brought as offerings to gravesides and placed where the ancestors are remembered. One particular tradition I love is scattering the bright flowers all the way from the cemetery to one's residence to provide a way for the spirits to return home. I am moved by the thought of these floral beacons catching the moonlight at night and a colorful floral route being illumined in the darkness. I wonder if the spirits wander in this way, returning to burial grounds and homes of beloveds once each year for a visit. We are surrounded in this culture with our commercial holiday of ghouls and goblins, chocolates and candies, cornstalks and spider webs, and every imaginable Halloween decoration. Here in California, we also find sugar skulls and marigolds alongside the pumpkins and trappings of Halloween. There is a beautiful blending of the many holidays from different traditions all around the globe, which honor the realm of our ancestors this season. Dia de los Muertos, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, All Saints, and All Souls. In these days of barren trees, dried leaves, and lengthening darkness, we too should consider our own lives and their relationship to our beloved dead. It is said that the veil that separates our world from the world of spirit is at its thinnest in this time, and the spirits are free to move between the worlds. In the tradition of Dia de los Muertos, burial places are visited, candles are lit, favorite meals for our dearly departed are cooked, and drinks are left out to quench their thirst after that long journey home. This is my favorite holiday season, as it is a time for reflection and communing with all of those who have gone before. I often imagine the spirits moving between the worlds in this time, and I remember and honor their lives in my own ways. Often I will leave a table setting for the ancestors to make room for them and for acknowledging the reality of death in my life. I think of my grandparents and their friends who have passed beyond this horizon of life. I think of my friend Mark, a notorious drag queen and excellent chef, who was a dear friend who died too young. I think of the hundreds of souls who I have had the privilege of companioning in the hospital in their final moments as they took their last breaths. I think of all those who died, who I loved and served in ministry over many years. I imagine that perhaps this morning I am not standing before empty pews in a church that I love, but I imagine them filled with the presences of the beloveds of this community at this sacred time of the year. I imagine that maybe their spirits endure and they shuffle between the realms to join us for this hallowed hour. I feel something of another world in this season of our ancestors, and do my best to not turn away, but to honor death in the midst of life. Now, how many of you have wondered if someone has visited you in the great beyond? Have you had an encounter that you cannot explain or fully comprehend? Perhaps you heard footsteps down an empty hallway, or felt the presence of someone with you in an empty room. Maybe it was in a dream or a memory that came alive. My grandmother tells me that she speaks with my other grandparents and her friends who have passed while she cooks in the kitchen. Many have told me of visitations from another world while they were in the hospital. Friends have shared moments when they knew they had encounters from the great beyond. What might it mean for us to listen for the whispers of our ancestors? What might it mean for us to honor the dead in our lives, just as we honor the living? Who is it that may have paid you a visit this season? Whose spirits and memories are you inviting to sit with you this twilight hour? Unitarian Universalists hold many beliefs about what lies beyond the realm of the living. Our humanistic orientation to life often means we focus more on the difference we can make in this world rather than worrying about the hereafter. We do this because we felt our siblings of faith in other traditions just put too much emphasis on what may come and not enough emphasis on this world in which we live. Our Unitarian ancestors adopted this orientation to the afterlife. And our Universalist ancestors believed that in the summation of time, all souls would eventually grow into harmony with the divine. Today, Unitarian Universalists adhere to a wide diversity of beliefs. Wiccan and pagan UUs may believe that we are united with our loved ones in the Summerland, the land of eternal summer, when they die, and celebrate Samhain or All Hallows Eve as the most important holiday in the wheel of the year. Christian and Muslim UUs may believe that heaven or paradise awaits us when we die, and may celebrate the Day of the Dead, All Saints, or All Souls. Jewish and humanist UUs may believe that this life is all we've got, so we better appreciate it and do what we can to improve the human condition while we still have the opportunity to do so. Since we are a liberal religious tradition, we approach such beliefs with an open mind and welcome this diversity of thought and experience as a strength of our liberal faith. Honoring our beloved dead at this time of the year is one of the oldest of humanity's religious customs. The many holidays that have emerged over the generations converge at this point in time, which is about midway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. This time is marked in Neolithic astrological alignments and was later celebrated as Samhain in ancient Gaelic culture, the origin of All Saints, All Souls, and yes, Halloween, and Dia de los Muertos in ancient Aztec culture. Over the centuries, these holidays evolved, and some of them merged into their familiar forms we know today. This has been a time associated with contemplating life and death, as it is the liminal period between the fertility, light, and warmth of the springtime and summer, and the barrenness, darkness, and cold of the autumn and the winter. When humanity lived closer to nature, it perceived the changing seasons to be a reflection of changes in the human lifespan, and also a reflection of the worlds of the living and the dead. Spring and summer were associated with childhood and adulthood, and the autumn and winter were associated with old age and with death. The All-Hallow-Tide season marked the transition from the light half of the year to the dark half of the year, and these corresponded to the realms of the living and of the dead. So we gather this morning between All Hallows Eve and Dia de los Muertos on All Hallows, at that point at which it has long been believed that the worlds converge. I'd like to invite you to bring to mind the faces of your dearly departed this morning, and to welcome their memories, presences, and love into your home in this special time. Many of the traditions of this season are about cultivating an atmosphere that is welcoming to our ancestors and that wards off restless spirits, the trials of the winter, and ill fortune. Marigold trails are left to guide our dearly departed home. Table settings are prepared to mark a loss, a memory, or a welcomed presence. Tamales may be left as an ofrenda, an offering for the spirits. Jack-o'-lanterns are carved to welcome friendly ghosts and to scare off the not-so-friendly ones. Costumes were similarly worn in some of these traditions to keep the unfriendly spirits at bay. And trick-or-treating and asking for sugar or chocolate skulls evolved from the merger of traditions and the ancient custom of going from door to door singing to appease the dead. We often do not recognize that most of the traditions at this time of the year are not simply secular practices, but are derived from ancient religious customs that we have inherited. I hope you will draw upon these many diverse customs and perhaps study them in greater depth as spiritual resources for honoring and connecting with our beloved dead. Remember in this time to reach out to those guardians of the veil that separates this world from the great beyond. If we wish to commune with our ancestors, let us begin with those among us who are still living. It is our elders who are the guardians of the veil. They are the ones who bridge these worlds. It is they who are the keepers of the stories. It is they who remember the dreams of days past. Our society has so often forgotten them and hid them away, just as it has tried to hide the reality of death from us. If we truly wish to follow the marigold trail to the presences of our beloved dead, we must first meet the gatekeepers whose lives and memories extend beyond this day and this time. May we journey together, generation following generation, to that crossroads where life and death meet as one. To death in the midst of life, and life in the midst of death. Amen, and blessed be. During the month of November, half of our church's offering will be shared with the Lakota People's Law Project. In 2004, a group of grandmothers in Lakota country, an area of 9 Indian reservations in North and South Dakota, asked the Law Project to investigate and help them prevent South Dakota's Department of Social Services from removing their grandchildren from their families. The investigation uncovered that drugging and routine patterns of physical and mental abuse of Native children in foster care were leading to high levels of youth suicide. These atrocities, a direct violation of the Indian Child Welfare Act, a federal law enacted in 1978, inspired the formation of the Lakota People's Law Project. It was time to put a stop to the cycles of injustice leading to the slow genocide of the Lakota. The Lakota People's Law Project works closely with tribal nations and nonprofit organizations to amplify indigenous voices, provide renewable solutions in place of fossil fuel consumption, protect the voting rights of Native people, and provide on-the-ground support when and where it is most needed. This includes working with organizations to advance LGBTQ rights in Indian country and help with challenges around COVID-19. LPLP also aims to assist in the reclamation of indigenous lands and to stop all threats to the Lakota culture. They understand that Native peoples possess inherent sovereignty and the right to autonomous rule and self-determination. Please note that there are 3 ways to give to this morning's offering: text, on our website, or by mailing a check. If you are giving by text with your smartphone, text 844-982-0209 and put the amount donate in the body of the text with the letters GCC, which stands for Generous Congregation Contribution. The first time you give in this way, you will be asked to set it up. After that, it will be simple. Again, that number is 844-982-0209. Easy text giving makes a big difference. Donations of any amount are gratefully accepted. For more information on giving, you can focus your phone camera on the QR code in the corner of the screen. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be received.
Salías del templo un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. Salías del templo un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi.
Tan lindo vi y llevabas, llorona, que la Virgen me creí.
Tan lindo vi y llevabas, llorona, que la Virgen te creí. Llorona de azul celeste, llorona de azul celeste. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Hay muertes que no hacen ruido, llorona, y es más grande su penar. Hay muertes que no hacen ruido, llorona, y es más grande su penar. Llorona de azul celeste, llorona de azul celeste. Salías del templo un día, llorona. Ay, mi llorona. Listen more often to things and to beings. Listen more often to things and to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are falling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
May you hear the whispers of your ancestors in this time of drawing near to the mystery beyond life. May the love and wisdom of generations past sustain and embolden you to greet the future with cherished memories and unwavering hope. May you remember your life is but notes in the great symphony of existence. May you bow before the symphony and remember its larger rhythms, and find yourself elevated by its ethereal beauty. May you be blessed by this time of beloved community, and may you be a blessing. Amen.